In the heart of Chicago, a young woman named Clara, freshly graduated at 23, moved into a modest studio apartment on the top floor of a weathered three-story building. The apartment, though small and unremarkable, was a haven of independence for someone burdened with student loans and no savings. Its single window overlooked a narrow, shadowy alley, barely wide enough for a car, flanked by another near-identical brick building. The alley was perpetually dim, sunlight struggling to penetrate during the day, and at night it was swallowed by an oppressive darkness. Clara, working late shifts as a bartender at a lively lounge on the north side, often returned home around 2:30 or 3:00 a.m., exhausted but content in her routine of quick meals and scrolling through her phone until sleep claimed her. About a month into her tenancy, Clara's sense of security began to fray. One night, as she flicked on the overhead light upon entering her apartment, a subtle movement caught her eye, a flicker in the window across the alley. It was as if a curtain had twitched, a brief disturbance in the otherwise still darkness. She froze, heart pounding, but when she peered closer, the window was lifeless, its interior shrouded in black. Shrugging it off as fatigue or a trick of the light, she went about her night, though a seed of unease had been planted. The next night the same thing happened. As her lights illuminated the room, she distinctly saw a curtain in the opposite apartment shift, a hand pulling it back just enough to create a sliver of visibility before it fell back into place. The apartment across the alley was always dark, its lights never on, leading Clara to assume it was unoccupied. Yet the movement was undeniable, and the coincidence of it happening the moment she turned on her lights felt too precise to ignore. Over the following week, Clara became hyper, aware of the window across the alley. Each night, without fail, the curtain would part slightly within seconds of her lights coming on, revealing nothing but a void beyond. She began experimenting, leaving her lights off and sitting silently by her window, peering into the darkness. On those nights, the curtain remained still, as if her observer was waiting for her signal. But the moment she illuminated her apartment, even with the dim glow of a lamp, the curtain would stir, a slow, deliberate parting that sent chills down her spine. The precision of the timing gnawed at her, defying any rational explanation, like a neighbor casually glancing out. Clara's sleep grew restless, her dreams haunted by the image of that window and the unseen figure behind it. Desperate for answers, Clara questioned her landlord, a gruff older man who dismissed her concerns with a chuckle, insisting the apartment across the alley had been vacant for months. When she pressed, asking if someone might have moved in recently, he shook his head, joking about her paranoia. The lack of concrete evidence made her hesitate to involve the police. What could she report? A curtain moving in an empty apartment. It sounded absurd, yet the feeling of being watched grew heavier each night, a weight that pressed against her chest. She began to dread returning home, her once cozy apartment now a stage where she felt exposed. The situation escalated one night when Clara returned home later than usual, around 4:00 a.m. After a grueling shift at the bar, exhausted and distracted, she noticed something wedged in her doorframe. At first she thought it was a flyer, but as she pulled it free, her blood ran cold. It was a crumpled piece of paper with a single word scrawled in pen, "Hey." Her mind raced to the window across the alley, the curtain, the hand. She rushed to her window, heart hammering, but the curtain was still, the apartment dark. Panic surged through her, and she called her friend Jamie, who urged her to leave immediately. Clara packed a backpack with essentials and fled to Jamie's apartment across town, her mind spiraling with questions about who had left the note and how they knew where she lived. The next day, Clara returned with renewed determination, confronting her landlord and demanding to see the apartment across the alley. He hesitated, clearly annoyed, but eventually agreed, meeting her with the key. The apartment was a stark contrast to her own, dusty, barren, with creaking floorboards and an air of neglect. In the back room, facing her window, stood a single metal folding chair, positioned as if someone had sat there for hours, staring directly into her life. The sight made her stomach churn, confirming her worst fears. The landlord's confusion seemed genuine, but Clara couldn't shake the thought that someone had access to this supposedly locked space. The police were called, and they searched the apartment, taking fingerprints but finding no immediate answers. The chair, the note, the curtain, all pointed to a deliberate, chilling presence that had been watching her every move. Clara moved out within the week, unable to bear the thought of returning to her apartment. The experience left her shaken, her sense of safety shattered. She never learned who was behind the curtain, how they gained access to the vacant apartment, or how long they had been watching her. The landlord's insistence that he knew nothing made her question everyone, even him, though she dismissed the idea when she realized he wouldn't have left the chair for her to find. Years later, the memory of that window haunted her dreams, waking her in the dead of night with the unshakable feeling that someone, somewhere, was still watching.